Welcome, everybody, to Blue Collar Chats. I'm your host, Cameron Vogelsang, and thank you for joining for another episode. Today, we have a guest on who I've been friends with ever since I started my channels on social media. He's right up the road in the Nashville area. Super cool guy, has all kinds of different inventions he's working on, has an awesome trailer that you'll get to see here in just a moment. But I'd like to in the past, I've said that I'd like for this channel to not just be about electricians, which, if you don't know, I'm an electrician. I have an Instagram channel called Tennessee Electrician, of course, this YouTube channel as well. But I'd like to just talk with all kinds of trades, not just electricians, but so that we can all just get a more well-rounded perspective of what goes into the trades, and maybe there's someone out there who is trying to figure this stuff out and just be able to level up in their career. So I'm not gonna talk anymore in this introduction. I'd like to bring in our guest. Let's see here. We can bring him in. Let's get you unmuted. What's up, Brant?
Hi, Cam. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. So, man, you've done a lot. You have a lot going on. And like I just said a moment ago, we've been friends ever since we started this channel. And I don't know how we got connected. We did at some point, but I always like connecting with people that are in my state, whether it's electricians, GCs, or whatever. There's just something special about having a good network of friends in our state.
I agree. It's very reinforcing to find that you've got smart, capable peers that are amongst you that are nearby. It's easy to meet very intelligent people on the internet. Of course, the popular accounts rank first and come into your periphery first. But when you find out that there's big ideas right in your backyard, it's always very encouraging to me. So I was pleased to meet you 2 years ago through Instagram, Cam. I was glad for your visit you took to the shop out here to see all the things that we've got cooking up in the laboratory. And it's been a pleasure knowing you. I'm just continuing to be proud and impressed by your breaking out on your own and starting your own business in the last 6 months. So congratulations on the Tennessee Electrician becoming a legit solo entity and well, with you and your partner. And so uh, pleased to know you, Cam. And thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. And I think at whatever point we got connected, I don't know who followed who first, but what stood out is your logo and your trailer, because you have some stuff on your trailer with all the lights and tools and whatnot. So that's why I wanted to have you on today, just to talk about who you are, what you do. I'm sure there's other guys out there, maybe not electricians would have a setup like you, but there's a lot of guys out there who are interested in the trailer thing. Like, yeah, you have you have working with Matt, right? He's all about trailers. Raven Builders,
Right.
he's all about trailers, and you are too. And so I think there's an audience that tries to look for like the best setup and how you did things. So if you would, I said your name a second ago, Brant. If you would just introduce yourself to everybody, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Thanks, Cam. My name is Brant Taylor. I'm a construction technologist and tool inventor living in Nashville, Tennessee. Um, for the last 10 years, I have operated what I refer to as an experimental construction company. We do produce residential remodels and new construction from the ground up. All of our work is frame to finish, so we're involved in every one of the hands-on working trades that are involved in the totality of process of bringing projects together. Through the last couple of years, I realized very quickly, I guess back in 2013 when I entered the trades, that this industry is very short on tools and technology. It seems like all of that stuff has been pushed upward toward the commercial ranks. Residential has been kind of left behind to some degree to kind of fight for itself amongst the Home Depot and Lowe's shelves and use the technology that big tool brands like DeWalt and Milwaukee are putting out. But other than that, there's really not much sophistication that gets pushed down to the residential level. And I wanted to change that. So my daily way of life was very frustrating when I first started in this. I had to yell for people across the job site. My communications were always very strained. And those things took a toll on me. And they made the work uncomfortable, but it was a work that I loved. I just didn't love what the work was doing to me. So I started to innovate inside of this space. I had to do something to make the chaos go away and to make this feel more normal and more comfortable for me. So the first challenge that I tried to tackle was job site communications. And I came up with this concept. It's called the Brain Bucket. And the Brain Bucket is a climbing helmet that has several different systems attached to it. It looks just like this. I've got one handy. The Brain Bucket is this climbing helmet. It's got a lighted visor on it that has different lighting features, 4 different lighting settings. You've got the front bar COB light with the high and low, and you've got a spotlight with the high and low. That spotlight is aimed right at your hand tactile working range. So when you have got tools in your hand and you're looking down at them, that spotlight is keenly focused right on that working range. That visor comes in really handy for grinding, for cutting metal, for sawing, anything that you're doing overhead, breaking up tile, any kind of demolition work that visor comes in handy for. We also started running cameras on the job site a couple years back to document all of our work. The Brain Bucket system has ear protection built in that is also connected to a communication network. So everybody who's wearing one of these helmets, they enter into a job site mesh communication network real time. I want you to think about like 20 motorcyclists going down the road in the summertime. All those guys have that same little unit on the back of their motorcycle helmet, and it connects the whole group together so that they can have a conversation while they're driving hours down the road. Same kind of principle here. The headphones tune out all the things that you don't want in the course of your construction day. It tunes out yelling, it tunes out loud tool noise, it tunes out any kind of damaging volumes, annoying frequencies like vacuums and saws. It tunes all of that stuff out so you can have a natural, relaxed conversation. I haven't yelled on my job site for the last 3 years, and it's been game-changing. It's made the work much more enjoyable for me. It's brought stress levels down. But it's done something that I didn't anticipate and I didn't expect it to do to my daily way of life. It made the trades comfortable for young, inexperienced workers to walk onto the job site and feel like they can make an immediate impact. I want you to consider, Cam, you and I have talked at length through the years about some of the things that are holding back the skilled trades from really like beefing up the ranks and adding new blood to the organization. I don't think construction has a recruitment problem. I think plenty of people come to the trades. I think construction has a retention problem. Not enough people stay. Plenty of people come and try it out, but because they're low skilled, they get put to work doing the least desirable work. Move that stack of drywall, push that broom, shovel that ditch, go wash the truck, fetch coffee, etc. They get given the lowest skilled task, and they don't really have much access to opportunities that could build confidence. And you know from experience jumping into your own venture recently, if you don't have that confidence to take those kinds of leaps and to take those kinds of risks, you cannot grow. So what the Brain Bucket did that I did not anticipate, a happy accident, if you will, is that it made new recruits comfortable working in construction. It gave them access the entire day to the full stack of the company's knowledge base right in their ear. And so they're able to take on more work. They're able to execute things that you may have to stop production for in a traditional scenario. A lot of the PPE that we wear on the job site gets in the way of the teaching process. Right now I'm wearing headphones. If I were on the job site, I would have to take my headphones off so I can communicate with the guy next to me. He has to take his headphones off. So if I'm teaching, we're not working. And if we're talking, we're not working. Think about it if there's a guy on the roof and a guy in the crawl space and I'm on the center floor in the middle of the house. The only way traditionally that we're talking to those people separated like that is from a walkie-talkie. Well, that's an even worse delay because now you have to use one of your hands. You got to push a button. Now you got to wait for another guy to speak, wait for him to finish speaking. Work is not progressing at that moment. You're either working, making forward progress, or you're communicating in those scenarios. The Brain Bucket makes it easy to do all of those things at the same time. So for me, it was a great way to just create flow, and the communication environment. The communication environment on the job site is everything about. It's the difference between enjoying your workday or going home just absolutely beat up. How many days have you had out in the field where you have worked all day, you put in an 8 or 10 or a 12-hour shift, and you go home and you feel like you haven't gotten anything done? Those days were really starting to wear on me. So after 5 years of doing that, I said, I just can't do this chaos anymore. I've got to bring some order to it. And that's how these inventions kind of started springing up. And after I had some early success with making the inventions, I saw how much capability I had to build better daily lives for the workers who work in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of remodeling people's kitchens and bathrooms and making one space at a time better for people, one house at a time better for people, I saw a real opportunity to make a marked improvement in our industry on a large scale. And I could make the work itself better for people in the field. And that is something that I feel compelled to. So now I no longer refer to myself as a contractor. Now I consider myself a full-time inventor. I've got half a dozen inventions that have been already marketed, sold, promoted over the last 5 years, the brain bucket amongst them, and there's more on the way. So this is a direction I definitely want to continue to move in because I find it deeply fulfilling work. So yeah, that's the short version of trying to get you up to speed with the last 10 years.
Hey, that's just one thing. You're
That's just one
talking about the
thing.
brain bug. I mean, there's so much more that you have going on, and I appreciate guys like you thinking of ways to better our industry, to better our day to day life, and this is kind of a different topic, but you have a heart for tradesmen. Like this is your
Yes.
personality. That's you've had. We've talked about before how you've had another profession that would line up. I can see your for lack of better terms, pastoral heart towards tradesmen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so
I
that's one
get
thing
that
I
from my
really
dad.
yeah. So that's
I get
that.
that from my dad. My dad's a 46-year experienced machinist toolmaker.
Mhm.
He's also got 30 plus years in the ministry. I went to seminary myself. I preached for a couple of years before I got out into the workforce. And there's always been a passion for, I guess, moving people towards broader thinking. And so that kind of plays directly into these inventions. But prior to being in the construction industry, I worked in all facets of automotive, from owning my own repair shops to running parts stores to working on the auction side of the business, working at the dealership side of things and new sales. I've done everything you can possibly do inside of the automotive industry. And I brought a lot of the things that I thought that industry could use improvement upon, but it kind of had too much corporate mesh already intertwined with it to really be able to actually make marked improvements. It can only move so slow once a corporation becomes saturated. The trades were kind of the Wild West, and there was a lot of room for opportunity for improvement. And I believe in that more now today than ever before, simply because small construction businesses like yours, they don't have any kind of standardized governance. They don't have any kind of core rule set that they have to follow aside from codes compliance. So guys like you and me, we can really kind of figure out our own path and carve our own path and really just write our own destiny. There's not a lot of those same rules or structure or restrictions that prevent us from growing. So that gave me a lot of hope that I could make a really big impact inside of the construction sector, and that's why I moved my career over here in 2013.
Yeah. So I'm always looking to find ways to save time, right? Make more money. And if you're in business, the goal is to get your costs down as low as possible, and that may mean investing into tools. I think that's kind of like a no brainer. That's like business 101, construction business 101 stuff. And yeah, so if I'm investing into tools that are going to make the job faster or more efficient or help train my employees better, that's what I want to get into, right? I don't just because something's been done, this way, for so long doesn't mean that that's the standard or that there's not, no other options. And
Correct.
that flows over to like what you said earlier on your attitude. Your attitude
Yes.
towards work, your life, and just your personal life. It's all going to bleed into when you get home, because like you said, if you worked a 12-hour day and your processes are horrible, right, and you did all this work and then you feel like you didn't really accomplish anything, well, yeah, because there's a better way to do it probably.
Yes, everything inside of this mobile footprint was optimized and designed through a 4 year process elimination for its maximum efficiency. One of the things that became very abundantly clear early on the job site was that if I didn't have the right tool that I needed in the moment able to get into my hand within 15 or 20 seconds, then work stops while I chase a tool.
Hmm.
if I have to get on the phone to talk to the guy who's on the other side of the job site, work stops while I make that phone call or while I send that text message to the guy in the crawl space. And so I kept seeing all of these little work stoppages interrupting the course of the day. And I had this hunch in the back of my mind that there was only like 2 or 3 hours of real, actual, nonstop work getting done. And then there was like 6 or 7 hours every single day of just working against or working inside of my own systems. And I didn't really realize they were systems at the time because it just felt like the things I had to push through in order to make progress. I.e., I had to dig in the back of my truck for something or find the one tool, remember the last place that somebody put this thing or that. And these little stoppages add up to unproductive time. And if you have gotten anywhere near 30 or 40% of unproductive time in your day, you're going to struggle at the end of the week to bill for more than 50 or 60% of your time, because there's such a large amount of volume of hours that are spent just getting out of your own way. Well, these things drove me nuts. As an auto mechanic, my former life, the cars came to my shop bay, and I had all my tools arranged perfectly the way I wanted inside of my toolbox. And yes, I knew where every single 10 millimeter socket was. And it was a thing of beauty. But when I moved into working houses, you can't take your house to the mechanic shop. So I built this trailer because the mechanic shop has to be able to come to the house. So the same principle as those optimized work environments are what fed and informed the design of this tool trailer. I needed to shrink that window down of unproductive time, of the amount of time that I spent getting out of my own way, in order for me to be able to bill more of the hours productive that were in the course of the day. It also speeds along the process. The contractor who finishes faster and more beautiful is the contractor who's going to be able to earn more money. If you take longer, but you're still just as beautiful, that's great for your pride. It's great for your finished product. It's great for your reputation. It's not so great for your pocketbook. And guys know what I'm talking about. So I didn't want to surrender the quality. I didn't want to surrender my reputation. So I had to figure out how to build systems that worked for me. And so I took those years of frustration and those scenarios that I could recall that cost me the most time. And they came down centrally to two main topics: power logistics and water logistics. Power logistics, for example, you got to do some demolition on some old garage step that's out there and it's just solid concrete. Well, now you got to break out a big, heavy breaker hammer. Well, what if you're on a build that doesn't have the power turned on yet? Okay, well, now it's like, how long is the extension cord versus how far away is the next door neighbor? Did we think this through today? Did we bring a generator to the site? Power is always scarce in a remodel or a new construction scenario, especially a new construction scenario. And if you're out there where you are, Cam, and you're in the middle of the country, power can really be a challenge because it's always a shrug. I know that when you're doing regular work, you're frequently recommending to customers, you might want to put a plug here. Right. I know it's become code to put a service plug next to the AC unit for good reason, because for how many decades did we go without a service port next to an HVAC unit outside? Mm-hmm. Power logistics always got in my way. So I had to make this whole trailer run off grid. So I run it off of 4 DeWalt batteries that are hooked up to a big power inverter in the back of the trailer. I can offload that power inverter and I can directly power a power tool, or I can run a power cord from the trailer to that power tool. The second thing that always tripped me up big time on some of these job sites was water logistics. I would need water to thin out my drywall mud, or I would need water to wash my paintbrushes, or you need water for all kinds of different things. Impromptu mixing of a batch of concrete, something along these lines, mortar mixing for tile. You know, plumbing is always in a sketch situation if you're ever doing like multiple bathrooms or like an entire interior remodel. Plumbing and water are always those things that are just variables. And so I built in a water dispensing system inside the trailer that has a 5-gallon reserve. So those kinds of things were some of the basic necessities that I knew I had to knock out right in the beginning. But then the rest came down to tooling, and I tried to batch those things together according to process. So for example, this cabinet over on this side, I had all my electrical tools put into. Mm-hmm. This cabinet behind me, I had all of my plumbing tools put into. The stuff at the very back of the trailer, I put all my cordless tools into, so that when I'm telling somebody inside of our communication network where to find a tool, first of all, mm-hmm. when they walk in this trailer, they have me in their ear. So once they walk inside, I can say, look to your right, it's on the third
Cool.
shelf, it's second one down. They're looking where they're supposed to look as they're hearing the instruction. Now compare that to almost every single job site out there. You information dump to this person before they make a big long run back to the trailer. And sometimes the trailer is hundreds of feet away from the work. So you information dump, you tell them where it's at. And then by the time they get there, they remember where it's at, but maybe they don't remember what it's called. Or maybe they're nodding their head and saying in agreement they understand what the tool, you're using the proper nomenclature. You're calling the tool by its name. They're just maybe inexperienced and don't know that the tool is called that, or didn't see the tool come in from the box when you bought it from the store. So if to a new person, think about how all this stuff looks. It all kind of looks the same. They all kind of take the same batteries. They're all kind of in the same size range. So how are you going to describe that to somebody when you send them off to your work trailer to find the thing, and then you're just crossing your fingers and hope it makes it back? So what do most guys end up doing, Cam? They end up doing the thing where they take the most talented guy, experienced worker, and he says, screw it, man, I'll go get it myself. So the work stops again. This guy runs back to the trailer, and I did it thousands of times. For years, I just ran back and forth to my own work trailer just to find the stuff that I needed. I realized it wasn't just about organization. It wasn't just about having things neat and having things labeled and having things in a certain spot. My first trailer was half the size of this one, and it was very meticulously organized, but still people struggled to find where the stuff was. It's because of that information dump. You're giving all this instruction, and then you're telling somebody to go away and get it. So you stop work to communicate what you need, and then you're still stopping work while you're waiting on it to be fetched. And then by the time it comes back to you, it would have been faster for you to get up and go do it itself. That's the perception anyway. The reality is it's actually not faster for you to get up and go get it yourself. The fastest route is for somebody to be able to leave the minute you say you need something, start walking in that direction, and you can talk them through it as they're going. That multitasking is actually the fastest part. So even if you have a hyper-organized trailer, I highly recommend HiveMind job site communication systems. I'm going to show you a quick, cheap hack to be able to put your own systems together before this show is over today.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And did I hear you say that you have 4 DeWalt batteries powering your trailer? That's impressive. That DeWalt can actually
That's
do
correct.
That.
Yes, that's correct. I mean,
DeWalt's actually doing something good for once. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. There's always, there's always some shots fired when it comes to Milwaukee or DeWalt. And it's an interesting piece about that, because I never really had like any kind of a brand loyalty. When I started out in the trades, everything I had was rigid just because that was what I could afford when I started out. When I got tired of the rigid stuff breaking, which took a couple of years, it's actually pretty resilient equipment. When I started breaking through my rigid gear, I upgraded to DeWalt because it was the most commonly available item here at the stores in Tennessee. Milwaukee had a presence at Home Depot and Lowe's, but it was nowhere near what it was today, back when I was building this business. So I kind of came on to construction at the advent of cordless tooling as it was getting really good, and as it was getting, it was starting to bump up in size of the battery pack. And I think the reason I fell into the DeWalt platform was more or less because they were the first ones to bring in like the FlexVolt system, to where it's the same size pack, but they're bumping it up to higher voltages to be able to run things like miter saws and table saws and big giant concrete saws and stuff. They were the first in that inventive space. That worked out well for me from a timing standpoint for my overall business. So I kind of fell into that platform. And as any of these tool guys will tell you, they may not be absolutely in love with the brand that they're in bed with, but when they consider the cost of like upgrading or going to another platform, boy, batteries alone will kick you in the shins. So it's hard to switch once you've gotten started somewhere. And so DeWalt is kind of where I started, and then I got into inventive work, and I think that I probably would have made the pivot to the Milwaukee system about 4 years back. But when I built this trailer out, pack out wasn't a thing yet, and so I had to create systems prior to pack out. Had I to do it all over again, we'd probably be very similar to what Kevin has brilliantly done with the Raven Builders trailer. If you haven't followed that, Cam, I would drop a link in this video to Kevin, because I highly encourage anyone who's thinking about getting into a trailer or a mobile footprint. Kevin is a wealth of information. He shares it openly with everybody. So he's a great resource to look to for all things trailer, and especially it's very creative what he's done with the Milwaukee system in completely revolutionizing that setup. Same thing with Matt. These guys have taken Milwaukee to a whole new level. Another Milwaukee shout out that I would put out there, that just you cannot speak about this space or speak about this style of work without mentioning him. I would just consider him one of the most inventive guys in the Milwaukee space, and that's Tom Lawson with Straight Upstairs.
Mm.
His retrofit for his van is just it's mind blowing. It's out of this world. The guy does weekending out of it. He'll do dirt biking out of it. He'll do kids activities and camping out of it, and yet he produces just an incredible volume of gorgeous finished interior work with stairs and with all things high-end custom carpentry. It's remarkable talent there. So those are three guys that you got to follow if you're looking at building out a trailer for yourself. Everything here inside of this trailer was a little early to the punch for the technology that was coming. It was prior to Recon figuring out how to make connectivity to your cell phone for an inventory ordering system that's based off of a QR code. Brilliant technology. But this trailer was built before all of that stuff came along. That's not me humble bragging or patting myself on the back. I'm more or less making excuse for the fact that it's not more evolved, because I kind of jumped the gun and had to build my own systems in the absence of something really solid coming from the retail sector from a system standpoint.
Yep.
They had things like Tough Stack and stuff, but what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to flip open latches all day. So when I see guys who've got the trailers that are all built around the modular carrying system, I'm sure that works great for sending a guy to the trailer to get the tote that does the 7 things, because they bring back that tote. It's rugged enough to be right there in the pit with the work, and then they can bundle up the tote and just literally throw it in the back of the pickup or put it back in the spot in the trailer, and it's very, very durable from that standpoint. I just didn't want to fool with the latches, and so I bought a small pack out setup, I guess, back in 2020, and it was just enough that I could put it on like a 2-wheel dolly. I had 5 or 6 things stacked up. Well, the very first thing that I needed as soon as I started working inside that system was something that was on the bottom crate. And from being a pack out guy, you are packing all that stuff out to get to that thing that's on the bottom crate. This is before they had like drawers that slide out like a mechanic's tool shop and whatever. So they've definitely grown and evolved inside of their own niche. And had I settled into that years ago, I probably would have worked with a platform like that. But this is what came out instead. I find it easier to have the tool that I need hanging on the wall somewhere. And as long as it has one spot where it goes. Razor knives are a great example. How often do you flip out your little fastback razor knife in the course of a day as an electrician? It's all the time. It's just as handy as a carpenter's pencil. So I have like 13 of those knives, but they've got one spot. And in my first trailer, I thought that the key was to have those things that you needed in all the different spots. For example, I would put a fastback in with my drywall repair kit, because you're always going to have to cut drywall tape and do something or other. And so I would make sure there was one inside of that kit. And I would make sure there's one inside of my electrical kit. And I'd make sure there's one in my plumbing kit. And so I had, 13 or 14 different razor knives, but they were in all these different locations. I found that not to be the way to go. I've tried all kinds of different methods for packaging this stuff and putting it into a process kit, and none of those methods really worked great. And so I just started centralized single component locations. So all the razor knives have one home now, and they all kind of just hang out in the same spot. So when I say I need a razor knife, if it's not in my tool vest already, the guys know exactly where the razor knives are, because when you're looking around the room, there's a big wad of razor knives that hang on the wall in the same spot. So that seems to have promoted more efficiency inside the systems, is having single component locations. One place for everything seems to really be the key to a system like this.
Yeah. Now, not everyone's going to need trailers in their profession. Not everybody has employees. And so for me, I guess a question I'd like to pose to you is, we've been talking about efficiency and basically saving time, right? How to be more productive in your in whatever trade you do. What would you say to someone like me? Should I be for all practical purposes, should I be thinking for someone who's just by myself, I have a little truck that barely makes it by as far as storage. It's actually I'm running out of storage. I have to get something different in the future. But what would be your advice to someone like me, or someone out there who's just by themselves? Maybe they have one employee or two, but maybe they don't need a trailer with all this stuff. How can they be thinking on how to be more efficient in their job? Is it just a tool thing?
No, it starts with mindset first. I think you've got to decide from the gate whether you're going to grow or whether you're going to move slow. And there's plenty of guys who are successful doing both of those things. You can move slow and be a solo operation because you've only got one payroll to cover. You've only got one overhead, and you're content or you're unhappy at the end of the week with how much or how little you make. If you're not making enough, then you're going to be looking for ways to grow. And if you're in a growth mindset, you're in an expansion mindset, then the really question comes down to how fast can I grow? How fast do I want to grow? How big do I want to grow? If you want to grow at all, I would recommend getting a covered trailer, even if it's small. If you're a single trade operator, like if you're an electrician and that's your gig, then I'd recommend a very small, very maneuverable trailer. 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot V-nose. Single axle is going to be plenty for an electrician. If you're a plumber, you're definitely going to want a double axle. The most successful plumbers I've seen are in at least a 16 foot. That covers a lot of your longer pipe lengths, but it more or less becomes about heavy equipment when you get into the plumbing. You've got to have much larger tools to be able to do that task and to do it well enough to earn plumbing grade revenues. So if you're thinking about growth at all, make part of your growth strategy getting a trailer in the first year. The main reason primarily why is because of the weather. If you're working out of a truck or you're working out of a van, then weather is going to hinder your operation to a good degree. If you have a covered space on the job site that you can detach from your truck, well, then now you have the portability of the entirety of your work processes that you can leave on a job site somewhere. You still have flexibility to put tools in your truck to shotgun to something else. If there's somebody who calls you and you're on your way home and you've got to, and you're going to be back to the same job site the next day, this gives you a lot more versatility to be able to leave your core operation at your primary job site while you still jockey tools into your truck so that you can do a quick shotgun run or a quick punch list item on your way home or on your way into work the next day. So I would highly recommend a covered trailer. The second factor that you're going to look for with a covered trailer is you're going to be thinking about your daily way of life. If you're working out of a truck, then for 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week or more, you're living out of that truck. You've got to think about your daily way of life at work as if you're considering which types of comfort, which types of conveniences you want to be able to take with you from home. If you want a place that stays warm in the wintertime, that you can have a comfortable and relaxing lunch break. There's plenty of guys who just do that from their truck seat and they're just content for it. That's fine. Me, I get tired of sitting in my truck. Everything in Nashville is an hour plus for community. I know that you've seen your truck seat plenty through the years.
Oh yeah.
And anybody who's been a contractor for more than a couple of years, your truck's probably the least pleasant smelling place that you can spend a lot of your time. So if you have a different place where, and especially if you're going to work with like another guy or you're going to work with, 2 or 3 employees, a warm place where your team can gather their thoughts, regroup, have a cup of coffee, have a meeting in the morning. Those kinds of things make a huge difference long term to the quality of life of being an employee for you. So if you're thinking about growth at all, you're thinking about making more money, growing your business, you're thinking about branching out, having employees, do that while you're small. Build yourself out a trailer, build yourself out a system, and organize that thing to the degree that you can test it yourself and see if you can find what you need in a quick amount of time. The second thing I would recommend while you're building out a system for yourself, make a system that's easy to clean. And what I mean by that is that everybody's work vehicle, everybody's work trailer is going to get absolutely destroyed in the course of doing work. This trailer was just trashed a couple of days ago from having 50 sheets of plywood in it and all kinds of different lumber. And then when we build and we do the thing we're supposed to do on site, all that waste we've got to pull back off the job site and take back with us. So the raw materials transfer through this trailer. The trash comes back into the trailer to be hauled away and dealt with after the fact. you've got to have systems inside of your trailer that move out of the way of those other processes and move out quickly. The more of those things that get in your way or stay in your way because they're not systematized, those will be the things that you're always pushing around. So just having a trailer is not enough. You have to have a trailer that has systems which flow. And if you want advice on that while you're building it out, I'm more than happy to help. Like I said, I point people to guys like Kevin and Tom. If you follow those accounts, they're going to show you systems that run to a layer of thinking that is so deep and so intelligent that you'll find inspiration there that will far surpass the needs of any startup that's out there. But I highly recommend for you, Cam, and for others who are in their first year of business, who are looking at growing, who are looking at bringing other employees on, I would highly recommend that you create a footprint for yourself on your job site. And the easiest way to do that is a detachable trailer.
Yeah, so I've actually thought about getting a trailer, but not a covered one like you suggested. Basically, just to carry wire and pipe on a service. That's really when I need the trailer the most, is on services for all the PVC pipe and whatnot. And then possibly mounting a job box to that as well. Haven't thought through a covered trailer like what you have, even a smaller one yet. I know that would take more planning, and like I would need to figure out what exactly I'm looking for before I did a cargo trailer. But a while ago we were talking about tools, and if it's basically what can you get to help you make the job more efficient. You talked about not having power on new construction or remodels, right? So
Right.
what I have on the way right now is the Milwaukee SDS Max 1 3/4 12-hour battery chip rotary hammer, basically, right? Because on services there's sometimes no power, and if there is, I have to run an extension cord all the way to the temporary. If there is no power, then I have to have a generator and get that off and do all that. Now, it's probably cheaper to do the generator route if you just got like a little backpack generator. But for me personally, I just want to be able to grab the thing and go. Okay, and
Right.
I did my research, and that specific tool, it does everything I would need it to. Basically, chipping away footing, so I can get my pipe close to the wall. Sinks ground rods, but it's all battery powered.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
something I've been frustrated with over the years. Is not that I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but I've always had to use corded rotary hammers or chipping hammers, and it's just always like, okay, gotta go get the extension cord out, gotta go plug it up, or gotta go get the and it just kills time when you add it all up. If I
Yes.
could just grab the thing and start chipping away and boom, done, just like that, that would be so much
Yes.
more helpful on time, and it's just a convenience thing for me. It just pleases my mind to just be able to grab the thing and go.
It is very satisfying to have a task that gets put in front of you that does not have to stop you or slow you down. Anything which pulls you out of your flow state is something that is going to pull profit and pull money away from your business. So, to your point, the folks who are amassing just a huge tool set of all cordless tools, that's a smart direction to go because of that immediate versatility. Otherwise, to your point, it's even if you have multiple guys working for you, what happens with an extension cord is that you'll run it for something else, and then you'll have to undo that setup to go run power to the next part of the process. And so that now you have to undo something to redo something. And then if you don't need to go back to that process, now it's the same thing again. Look, the old heads will tell you, like, quit your whining. You're being
Right.
spoiled. That's, this, how soft are you? You'll hear all the critique. I'm sure you already do in your comment
Oh yeah,
section, Cam.
yeah.
You hear
Well,
plenty of the critique already about
well,
how.
yeah, but to your point, like just because you've done it this way for so long doesn't mean that there's a better way. And if I figure out a better way to do it, that's not as hard on my body and it's faster.
Right.
Why are you gonna critique that?
Yes. So, and I think that where some of that bitterness stems from is that those guys missed the chance to really grow and evolve when they were younger, when they were much more in a growth phase with their business.
Hmm.
And as solo entrepreneurs get older, they kind of have to stick to their core regimen, their rudimentary workflow, because it's the thing that doesn't break them in the process, and they've settled into kind of what their earnings are going to be and where their program's going to be. I would say this about building out your footprint. When you commit to a growth path, You have to commit yourself to the patience that growth requires. It's just like trying to grow your own vegetables. If any of you garden, or if any, I know you've got plenty of land out there, Cam. You're probably
Mm-hmm.
growing some stuff too, and I know your wife likes to do some things with farming. So once you plant a seed in the soil, you can put all the sunshine and water with it that you want. But what you can't do is you can't control how fast it grows. You can give it the best environment in which to grow. But patience is part of the formula. I would encourage other entrepreneurs to be patient with their growth, because you're going to move in the right directions. You're going to make the right plays that promote a lot of growth and will have a big end result. And eventually things will show fruit. But you may not see a lot of that growth that's happening. Here's the interesting part. The moment that seed gets planted, it starts to grow. You just don't know it for several weeks or several months at a time, or sometimes an entire season at a time. You just don't know it until you start to see it. Well, there's growth taking place underground in a place where you can't see. The same thing is happening with you as an entrepreneur. Once you plant the seed and you put it in the right environment where there's nutrients and there's things where it can grow, that thing is taking root inside of your psyche. It's taking root inside of your brain. It's taking root inside of your muscle memory. It's taking root inside of your daily way of life and your daily practice. That is, in and of itself, the growth that's needed in order to get to the point where other people see and notice the growth, where other people see your investments in your own time start to bear fruit. So just because it's not an instant gratification scenario, don't lose faith there. You can grow into everything that you need. To your point about portable power, you want a cordless tool. You don't want to have to fool with the generator. You don't want to have to fool with the extension cord. It doesn't mean the guys who are in a position of current growth where they have to have a generator and they have to have an extension cord. You and I were both there, Cam. We started with that equipment. We had to run the cords. We had to run the garden hoses, because we had not grown yet to a point where we could be separated from those systems and still be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a measure of, when you're looking at a guy like Kevin's trailer, don't be discouraged by how much growth he's made. Be inspired by the opportunity that's been created there and the path that's been carved for you to follow. He's proven that that growth is worth it. You're proving every day, Cam, to you and to your partner, that the growth investment is worth it. It does pay off. It does pay dividends. It does make life easier. Watching a guy like Tom work, you could sit back and go, geez, is this guy even actually really working? It all looks so easy. His wife regards that. His wife says that about him with frequency, that he makes all of this look so damn easy.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, like, what you're actually witnessing is not that his work is easier. What you're witnessing is years of growth bearing fruit real time as a part of the product that you are witnessing taking place. So don't be discouraged by these guys who you've seen climb to the top of their game. It's not a status thing. It's simply just a growth thing. And any of those guys who are humble and down to earth, as I know Kevin and Tom both are, they will reflect that back to you, and they will tell you that this is a growth thing and you can do it too. So you don't have to jump in and have a trailer like Ravens. You can grow into those kinds of things. And many of the people that we know, Cam, that we're mutual friends with, are growing into those kinds of things. Matt Sissel out of Kentucky is growing into a brand new trailer setup that he has taken cues and information from all of these guys that he's seeing on Instagram working that growth into their business as they evolve. Wintertime's big for this. So trailer conversations during the wintertime, this is when everybody is revamping their systems and making those improvements. So grow with inside of your means. If you have to have a generator and an extension cord, that doesn't mean you're less evolved or that you're not as smart as other people. It just means you haven't grown to that point yet where you can make a leap and just get away with it. If all of us had 50 grand laying around, then all of us would convert to Milwaukee. Well, 50 grand would get you about 7 tools in the Milwaukee lineup. So if you're looking to get like a total tool set with 50,000, go DeWalt, because you get way more bang for your buck.
Milwaukee's the best. That's why they're the highest.
That's true. And if you really want to eat through your operational cash, just start buying Bosch everything, and the money will just literally disappear from you. So.
Hey, so I genuinely believe that Milwaukee is the best company for power tools, and that's an opinion, okay? But if you don't have the budget for Milwaukee, especially starting out, I always recommend Hercules from Harbor Freight. And people can say what they want about Harbor Freight, but I should say some of the 20-volt power tools that Hercules has to offer are right there with Milwaukee. Some of them are, not all of them. But
Sure.
I always recommend Hercules is always a good second option if you can't afford Milwaukee. And then even if you don't want to do Hercules, if you're just an apprentice starting out, you can go to Walmart and get Hyper Tough tools. And I'm not saying that that's should be your end game, but Hyper Tough
Sure.
does offer a few things that do the job, and it only costs you like $30 to get an impact. You know what I'm saying? Instead of
What
spending
you're
like
referring to
150.
is what you're referring to is your growth tool set.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have a stage where if you're doing job by job and one customer at a time and you're trying to grow your wealth base and grow your operational cash to the point where you can level up and make a permanent tool set, to your point, I think it's very wise wisdom from your recent years of experience, Cam, to say go with a cheaper tool that might other people might shame or might give you some grief or give you some embarrassment for. Go with a Ryobi or go with something that is from your local Harbor Freight. That's a great option because what you know is that the tool's going to work. It's not going to work as well. It's not going to last as long, but you're not making an investment in those things. You're making an investment in the job and your ability to do it for now. You're growing into a bigger decision longer
Mm-hmm.
term. So long as it doesn't impact quality, you have to understand when you do get a cheaper tool, you're putting more stress on the operator. You're putting more responsibility on the operator. You're going to have to finesse it a little bit more. And you can't just be a brute. You can't just knuckle down on this thing because the Harbor Freight stuff, you'll smoke it out if you knuckle it down and treat it like it's a Milwaukee. It's not. But
But
you
you get a
can
5 year
still,
warranty.
yeah, right.
Harbor Freight offers 5 year warranty on their brushless tools, I believe, for
And that's
Hercules.
outstanding.
Yeah,
That's
so think
outstanding.
about
So,
think about like a whole hog, for example. If you're trying to figure out what brand to buy, go to Harbor Freight, get a Hercules whole hog, and you have 5 years on that sucker. If you burn that thing out, it's in store exchange, no questions asked. You can't beat that.
right. It's great for a startup tool set.
Yeah,
To your
yeah.
point, I don't disagree. Milwaukee is definitely Milwaukee does one thing really really well, and I'll give them this credit. DeWalt is definitely on like the more experimental front end of things, so they'll be the first one to make the leap. When it came time to stack up batteries and to do like stacked voltage and to do flex volt, that's a huge risk for a battery platform. That represents a several $10 million investment for them company wide. That's not just chump change for these guys. They have to
Mm-hmm.
make those moves very cautiously because if they go in the wrong direction with a battery platform, as DeWalt did for a long time, I mean, they've had like 11 different versions of batteries just in the last 10 years. So they've phased most of that out, and now their flex volt system is pretty much
Mm-hmm.
where they're going to stay. But getting to that point, they really burned through some iteration. But what they were doing in that process was they were innovating. Milwaukee kind of waited back and they said, we'll see what works out for the other guys. And then when they saw what the innovations were that they settled on, they made one launch of one battery platform and it won. And it's the one and done. So they waited until they saw what the other guys had done and then they improved upon it, patented their version of it, and then released. So I agree with you, Cam. If you're looking for that reliability, you're looking for that end result, you're looking for that final tool you're going to take to the dance for the rest of your career, Milwaukee is very highly likely that brand name. If you're interested in more of the innovation, you can probably get tools inside of the innovative space faster through one of the tertiary brands like a DeWalt. So for me, it works well on my system because I married into it early, but also because it seems to be of that innovative edge where you're going to have tools that do something that your friend's tool set can't do or doesn't do yet. You're going to have more of that if you stick with something like a DeWalt right out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, hey, Brant, I appreciate all of that. We're basically almost out of time here. Just got a few more minutes. I have to go do a couple of service calls, actually. But to close out, where can people find you or get in contact with you if they want to talk trailer or talk about whatever it may be?
You bet. Thanks for that shout out. And thanks again for having me on the show. I really enjoyed this. I look forward to doing it again. I welcome other conversations like this too. So as your buddies get a chance to watch this video, if they're putting out similar content or they run similar channels, I'm happy to be a guest on those shows and talk about all things that I've learned from the scientific study of construction labor to tool inventions and how some of this stuff comes about. Happy to talk about all that stuff. My website just went live, www.thetoolhacker.com. You can also catch me on Instagram at the Tool Hacker. I am starting to put some stuff on a landing page here on YouTube. It's primarily just there to have like the video feeds for some of the products that I'm going to be pushing out this year. But you can find me socially active on Instagram all day, every day. So that's mainly the place that I hang out, because in my experience, it's where all the coolest builders are, and those are the people I want to hang out with. So at the Tool Hacker on Instagram.
Yeah. So Instagram. Do you have a YouTube by chance, or not yet?
YouTube is up and running. The channel is
Okay.
also at the Tool Hacker at
Gotcha.
YouTube.
Okay. Awesome. Well, if y'all have questions about trailers, tools, if you need encouragement, call this guy. He'll make your day so much better. I
Thanks a
promise
lot,
you.
Kim.
All
I
right.
do enjoy coaching people. I do enjoy helping foster growth for people. So I've been through all the things from startup to success, and plenty of failures along the way. And I'm happy to share stories and talk about how I got there.
Awesome, Brant. Well, thanks for coming on, buddy, and I'm sure we'll have more episodes in the future. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys, for
Cam.
thanks, guys, for tuning in, and hopefully we'll have some more content like this in the future with some other guys. Like I said, this channel is not just for tradesmen; it's for or it's not just for electricians. It's for all tradesmen. And so, if you have any questions for Brant, you can find them on those channels. Hope y'all have a good one.